everybody. I am Dean Tribble. I'm CEO of Agoric, and we're all about a seamless programmable multi-chain. Now, this is a crowd where I don't need to emphasize just how important the multi-chain is. From our perspective, the multi-chain is the only chain. In the last year, there are $555 billion in TVL bridged from one chain to another. That's where assets from one chain have been dragged over painfully to another chain and are sitting there in use. There's even more than that transiting on a day-by-day basis in spite of the challenges that we've all talked about over the course of the day in doing multi-chain applications. And this is a 200+% increase over last year, and we're just getting started. So the problem is that actually doing multi-chain stuff is quite hard, right? It's really left to the user, where you've got a user with a line through his head that is trying to use multiple applications, especially multiple applications in multiple different blockchains, where they are left to individually sign these different transactions and do things across multiple different blocks. And the reason is because all of our applications are created in a world that people imagined that, Ethereum was the only blockchain in the world. And no, Solana is the only blockchain in the world. No, it's Polygon is the only blockchain in the world. And that's just not the case, right? We've got this world of blockchains that are now completely connected, but all the applications were built in these silos. And if you want to move assets between chains, you have to hand carry them across these wonderfully connected bridges. And these systems, because they thought they were the only thing on the planet, they're designed for transactions that start and end within a single block. And that's fine for doing a trade, X for Y, but it's not fine for an end user application, which is, the price crossed a threshold. Let me withdraw my money from here. And, 8 hours later, after that's been approved, transfer it over to there, swap for something, and deposit it into my yield account in order to top it up. Right? The ability to do the end-to-end use case that the users wanted takes more than requiring users to manually do all of that scut work, right? So we bring a solution. This is what orchestration is all about. It's enabling these seamless end-to-end use cases where the user signs one authorization. The user says what they want to do, not just as intense, but arbitrarily rich abstraction, arbitrarily rich operation that spans blocks and spans blockchains, where a smart contract on-chain does that work. Now, because existing systems, whether it's Solana or Ethereum or CosmWasm or any of those, are not designed for actions that are more than a block, they don't provide good support for this. You have to do this deliberately. You have to deliberately support the async world of multiple blockchains and multiple activities all happening at once and be able to organize that computation. And so that's what orchestration is the coordination of seamless activity across multiple blocks and multiple chains, and indeed multiple ecosystems. And so the mechanisms of that, and you can see other places where we talk about the code examples of that. Fundamentally, what you need to be able to do is what we call multi-block actions, where, I might do a undelegate my tokens from over there and wait for that. And the next line of code will execute 3 days later after the unbonding completes in order to transfer it to another blockchain and wait for that, which might take 20 seconds. And then trade it in a market and move it over to yet another ecosystem and deploy the tokens. Being able to make that straight line simple code where we express exactly what the user wants in code that a normal human understands is incredibly powerful and provides the support we need for doing these multi-blockchain operations, right? So that gives us a system where we can react to changes in the network in smart contracts on chain, where we can have timers on chain to say, here's what I want to happen every 24 hours or every 10 minutes or every block, right? That kind of ability to program these rich use cases directly means we can support the end-to-end use cases that end users actually want to achieve. Okay, so what's an example of some of those? Let's talk about some of those use cases. And they're incredible because you can't do them on existing systems. Fast USDC, I'll talk about in a minute. The boosted DCA, dollar cost averaging, I'll talk about in a minute. The others, examples, yield maximizer, right? Something where every 10 minutes, every hour, let me look up, check comparable yields, and if the yield on this position in Aave is changed enough compared to the yield on this position in Compound on a different chain, let me go ahead and withdraw the funds there automatically, move them over to that other chain, and put them into a different position, right? Staking management, where I want to be able to automate from one place the staking of the hundreds of chains, tokens on these hundreds of chains that are now rolling out in ecosystems like Celestia, in Cosmos, in Saga, in Dimension, in AgLayer, and so forth. You've got this explosion of chains with their explosion of tokens, and everyone wants to manage them, but you sure don't want to have to pay attention to all those details all the time. Enabling that to happen on-chain is very powerful. And cross-chain onboarding, right? One of the simplest but most important early uses of cross-chain orchestration is I've got an application over here in one ecosystem. I've got Celestia token, or Celestia chain launching. It's got staking tokens. The people who want to participate have their USDC over in Ethereum. How much work do they have to do in order to get staked Celestia token? Well, without orchestration, people reported, it took 3.5 hours, 6 signatures on 4 chains. Not a great user experience, not something that is amenable and accessible to millions of new customers. But if you can make that a one-button click that then behind the scenes a smart contract does all the required operations, you get a much, much better experience. You get something that is welcoming to new users. And multi-chain launchpad, we can talk about them more if we end up with time at the end, but we are working with a bunch of projects that are building on this orchestration API. It runs on a layer 1 blockchain that connects to and coordinates activities across all these other chains. It connects to everything that accessible via IBC. We're rolling out EVM now. It's in development as people are starting to build applications with it. Solana is next, and there are more in the pipeline as we go forward. And so these are logos of some of the projects that are building right now. So let's talk about that boosted DCA example. Dollar cost averaging is one of those things where, if you're gonna get new people in and they're gonna build up a position, the way you deal with the volatility in these markets is that you every day or every week, let me put $150 into getting a Bitcoin position, getting an ETH position, getting your favorite token position, and this is how you get new people in. But what if you want to do a little better than that? What if you want to leverage position? Well, in existing systems, you fall off a cliff. You just can't do it because doing that requires composing some of these DeFi primitives in a way to be able to easily support this brand new user. So what would doing that look like? Well, I got a weekly amount I want to do. I want to do $150, it's integrated in with a wallet. That's what I'm willing to do, but I want to leverage it. So what I'm actually expecting back is we'll send $150 out. I want to get STETH and deploy it and borrow against the $30. So I'm expecting $30 back, which gives me 20% leverage. And this is an application that someone's working on in orchestration that is designed for brand new users, right? So simple wallet interaction and easy automated, take my money, get me into this position. But let me do it, as I said, with leverage. What does that look like? Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work there, right? And it's work that user is never going to do. And in fact, you're likely never going to be able to explain it to them, right? So what they need to be able to do is sign one transaction saying, yeah, I'm in, set this up. And that will give an application thing where every day it wakes up, it on-ramps, $150 from their bank account, sends it over to buy Ethereum, deploys it into a lending pool, and then borrows $30 and sends that back to the off-ramp and right into their bank account. Right, so now they're building up $150 a week of a position in STETH or Osmo or whatever it is, for only $120 out of their pocket, right? This is that, let's go from dollar cost averaging to just a little bit of leverage. And wow, that incorporates several different DeFi components that we built for other purposes, right? It enables this new economics, in this case, to make the life of a brand new user easy, But the same kind of mechanisms let you do highly leveraged, let me go long on the mega vault in DYDX and share and tokenize it out to a bunch of my community and do whatever kinds of rich, complex economics you want to do by combining all of these components that people are building in other chains, right? Part of this is, and part of the reason why we have this explosion of multi-chain is the modular explosion, is the L2s, is the sidechain explosion, where people are creating chains that are single purpose, right? You've got liquid staking chains that are worthless without having another chain that has a token that needs to be liquid staked, and that are worthless without having another chain that has an AMM on which you're going to take the liquid stake token and deploy a position, or a lending market where you're going to go and lend that, or leverage it as collateral for a stablecoin, right? And it's that explosion of chains that creates the requirement of orchestrating use cases across multiple chains and the opportunity to create lots of new kinds of economics based on the kind of stuff that we're building. And so this is an example that's simple for new users, but this same kind of composition, you can, I expect, come up with use cases of your own that combine borrow and lend and token minting and NFTs and all these kinds of things to rich new use cases. Okay, so that's the auto stack. FastUSDC is a different kind of example using the same kind of orchestration. It's rolling out now. USDC, all of us use. Has anyone here not used USDC? Anyone here used USDC? Getting USDC off of ETH right now takes 20 minutes. If you want to go from one ETH to another, takes 20 minutes to get the finality. If you want to go from ETH to Cosmos, takes 20 minutes. ETH to Solana takes 20 minutes. And that's because of finality on ETH. So FastUSC is a mechanism. You've heard of the solvers like Across and so forth. This is to do all of that on chain, right? Our goal with orchestration is to, let's not start sliding from the high integrity execution on chain into a world of off-chain opaque legacy financials. Let's keep this kind of solver architecture on chain. And so it is move USDC from EVM to Cosmos initially, and then everywhere else shortly thereafter, in less than a minute, in spite of the finality of the 20-minute finality on ETH, right? So that's just a simple, click, add the FastUSC option, and push the speed button, maybe pay an extra fee, and the operation will happen in less than a minute. What's behind the scenes, right? Behind the scenes, what's happening is orchestration is coordinating this activity with a shared crowdsourced liquidity pool. Right, so you've got, I sign a transaction. Now that's a Ethereum transaction that uses Circle's native CCTP, right? So this is all the underpinnings of USDC as is, but what it's going to do is it's going to send that CCTP to the FastUSDC contract, right? So the user's signing the same kind of transaction. The system of FastUSDC notices that they are sending that money for real, and it can then advance the funds to their destination immediately, right? So first block comes in, takes 12 seconds, notice that that's happening, signal the contract on chain that, hey, there's a legit transaction. That transaction immediately delivers the underlying advance. If you sent the $100, it's now sending the $100 to your destination on Osmosis or DYDX or Compound, or eventually things like Solana or Arbitrum or what have you. And it does that advance, and then behind the scenes, Circle is trundling along and finishes its 20-minute journey to finally deliver the money in and settle with the liquidity pool that underpinned this advance, right? Underpinned the early payment here. And the net result from the user is they said, I want to send the money, and seconds later, right, with less than a minute, the money arrives at their destination, wherever it is in the entire IBC reachable world, and soon the IBC and CCTP reachable world. So that means L2 to L2 or L2 to Solana or what have you. But behind the scenes, the clearing and settlement happened on chain, right? And so we've got, compare that to the Across style solver, where availability and liquidity are visible. I don't know how many times I've tried to use Across or some of these solvers where I go, I want to transfer some money, and the answer was, yeah, they're not serving that destination today because, it's Thursday afternoon, we're a little sleepy, sorry, no money available, right? Or there's too much liquidity, everyone's trying to go to Solana, liquidity's exhausted, clicking the button doesn't help, right? It's completely opaque, it's completely invisible, and you don't necessarily know what you're getting in at a particular time, and so only the common routes are well served, and other routes, they just don't have enough capital, right? So making that transparent so you can see what's going on is really powerful. Making the liquidity be crowdsourced instead of market maker private club only, right? If you're on a chain, you've got a new sale coming in, your investors can step up and go, you know what, I'm going to add some liquidity to that so your stuff goes off, smoothly. Okay, we're done. I'll pull it back out. I'll go do something else with it, right? Being able to have people participate, being able to have the community participate is really powerful. It's a big part of why we did Web3 in the first place. Being able to automate settlement, right? If you use Across, if you use, IBC Fund, if you use some of these things, it's not actually moving the money, right? It's advancing the funds. I say, I want to transfer money over to there, and some market maker comes along and immediately delivers the money, but behind the scenes, they still have to do the clearing and settlement. How does that happen, right? Well, the answer is sometimes they use centralized exchanges, sometimes it's slow, it's opaque, it's not transparent, it breaks sometimes. Being able to have it be automated, on-chain, visible, and transparent is what we are all here for. And final thing, and then I'll wrap up here, is it's part of orchestration, and so it is programmable. Nobody actually wants to transfer money. That is not what excites people. They want to transfer money in order to do something with it, right? They want to unbond over here, transfer money and cover their position, or transfer money to buy a ticket or an NFT, or to build up a yield position. And so being able to tie into the rest of orchestration, where transfer money is a critical part of vast amounts of actual business that people engage in, but it's just a part. What they were doing is, taking their liquidity here and buying a position over there. That automation is the automation we care about. That use case is the use case users care about. It's what gives us that seamless ability to do end-to-end use cases that we need to deliver for the next generation of apps. It's what gives us the ability to extend your current application with use of all these other fine-grained services on all these fine-grained chains in order to give user retention in your application. And it's what enables us to do that next generation of applications that we all want to get to. So thank you very much. Your application can be enhanced with orchestration. Come talk to our folks in order to see what we can do.